Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Dawn, watching the stars through the main window. His ship moved slowly through space toward a large station floating in the darkness. The station looked like a giant metal tube with lights blinking along its sides. This was Harmony Point, where two alien races would try to make peace after 30 years of war. Jake was 42 years old and had been a ship captain for 15 years. He had short brown hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. Today felt different, though. Today might be the day that stopped a war that had killed millions of beings across the galaxy. "Captain, we will reach the station in 1 hour," said Ryan Torres from his seat at the communication controls. Ryan was 28 and always smiled, even when things looked bad. His black hair was messy because he forgot to comb it when he woke up. "The station commander is waiting for us." Jake nodded and looked around his bridge. Dr. Lisa Carter sat at the medical station, reading reports on her computer screen. She was 35 with blonde hair tied back in a neat ponytail. Lisa had kind blue eyes and always tried to help everyone, even strangers. She had volunteered for this mission because she wanted to save lives. Amy Brooks stood near the door, checking her security equipment. She was 30 and had red hair cut short like a soldier. Amy never smiled much, but Jake knew she cared deeply about keeping people safe. She had been his security chief for 3 years and never let him down. "Vorthak and Neltharion fleets are already here," Amy said, looking at her scanner. 200 ships from each side. They are staying far apart, but they are not shooting at each other. "That is good." Jake walked to the front window and stared at the enemy fleets. The Vorthak ships looked like flying crystals that caught the light from nearby stars. The Neltharion ships were round and smooth, built to hold the gas beings that lived inside them. For 30 years, these two groups had fought over mining rights to special crystals that powered faster than light travel. "Sir, Admiral Henderson is calling from Earth," Ryan said. Jake pressed a button and Admiral Paul Henderson appeared on the main screen. Henderson was an old man with gray hair and a serious face. He ran the human part of the Galactic Federation and had sent Jake on this mission. "Captain Morrison, you know why you are there," Henderson said. "Humanity has helped make peace between fighting aliens 43 times in the past century. We are good at this because we understand how different minds work. Do not let us down." "Yes, sir," Jake replied. "We will do our best." "The Federation Council is watching this closely. If peace fails here, the war might spread to other systems. Billions of lives depend on the next few days." Henderson's image disappeared. Lisa looked up from her computer. "I have been reading about both races. The Vorthak are made of living, crystal and live for 300 years. They think slowly but remember everything. The Neltharions are gas beings who think very fast but forget things quickly. They are very different, which makes fighting easy and peace hard." "What started this war again?" Ryan asked. "Mining rights," Amy answered. "The Kepler 442 system has quantum crystals that both races need. The Vorthak found the system first, but the Neltharions were already living on one of the planets. Neither side would share, so they started fighting." Jake had read the same reports, but hearing it again made him sad. 30 years of death over rocks in space. Sometimes I think aliens are crazy. "Humans fought wars over stranger things," Lisa said softly. "At least these races want peace now. That is what matters." The Phoenix Dawn docked with Harmony Point. An hour later, Jake and his crew put on their dress uniforms and walked through the connecting tube into the station. The air smelled different, like metal and cleaning chemicals mixed with alien scents he could not name. Commander Felix Grant met them at the airlock. Grant was 50 years old with silver hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He had been a diplomat for 25 years and helped make peace in 17 different wars. "Welcome to Harmony Point," Grant said, shaking Jake's hand. "I am glad you are here. This is the best chance for peace we have had in years." Grant led them through the station corridors. Jake saw Vorthak beings that looked like walking diamond sculptures, their bodies catching the ceiling lights and throwing rainbows on the walls. Neltharion beings floated in clear pressure suits filled with swirling colored gases that moved like tiny storms. "Both sides are tired of fighting," Grant explained as they walked. "The Vorthak have lost 60% of their military ships. The Neltharions have lost half their gas refineries. They need peace to survive, but they do not trust each other. They entered a large round room with a table in the center. The ceiling was clear, showing the stars and the two fleets watching each other in the distance. Jake felt the weight of all those ships and the beings inside them waiting to see if peace was possible. The leaders will arrive tomorrow morning, Grant said. Primarch Zektal speaks for the Vorthak Empire. He is old even by their standards, almost 250 years. Speaker Vithros leads the Neltharian collective. She changes her gas mixture to show emotions, which makes her hard to read sometimes. Lisa stepped forward. Commander, what are the biggest problems we will face? Language and custom, Grant replied. The universal translators work well, but some ideas do not translate perfectly. The Vorthak show respect by touching with their crystal arms. The Neltharians show respect by changing colors. If either side misunderstands the other's signals, we could have trouble. Jake nodded. He had seen peace talks fail because someone bowed wrong or used the wrong hand gesture. Aliens were sensitive about their traditions, especially during stressful negotiations. What about the treaty terms? Amy asked. Simple on paper, complicated in practice, Grant said. Both sides will share mining rights to the Kepler 442 system. Vorthak gets 70% because they found it first. Neltharians get 30% because they had people living there. The fighting stops immediately. Prisoners get exchanged. War reparations get paid over 50 years. That sounds fair, Ryan said. Fair and possible are different things, Grant replied. But both sides agreed to these terms before coming here. I think they really want peace this time. That evening, Jake stood in his quarters looking out at the two fleets. Tomorrow would bring the most important negotiations of his career. If they succeeded, millions of beings would live instead of die. If they failed, the war might spread across the galaxy. Lisa knocked on his door. Captain, are you ready for tomorrow? As ready as anyone can be, Jake said. What do you think will happen? I think peace is possible, she replied. I have to believe that, or this job would be too hard. Jake agreed. Hope was all they had sometimes, but hope had worked before. Humans were good at making peace because they understood that all beings, no matter how different, wanted the same basic things: safety, food, homes for their families. Tomorrow they would find out if hope was enough. The first day of peace talks went better than anyone expected. Jake Morrison sat in the observation area watching Primarch Zektal and Speaker Vithros discuss the treaty terms. The Vorthak leader was 12 feet tall and looked like a walking mountain of blue and white crystals. Light passed through his body and made rainbow patterns on the walls. Speaker Vithros floated in her pressure suit, her gas form swirling with calm green and silver colors that meant she felt hopeful. The mining schedules look good, Zektal said through the universal translator. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. My people can work the day shifts. Your people prefer the night cycles anyway. Yes, that works well for us, Vithros replied. Her voice came out as a soft whistle from her suit's speakers. The gases inside her container turned bright yellow, which meant she was pleased. Our gas forms process minerals better in cooler temperatures. Commander Grant smiled at Jake from across the room. Everything was going perfectly. The two leaders were actually talking like friends instead of enemies. After 30 years of war, peace seemed possible. Dr. Lisa Carter sat nearby, taking notes on her computer. She had studied both alien races for months to prepare for this mission. They really do want to stop fighting, she whispered to Jake. Look how they lean toward each other when they talk. Both species do that when they trust someone. Amy Brooks stood by the door watching the security screens. The alien fleets outside were still keeping their distance, but they had not powered up their weapons. That was a good sign. No hostile movements from either fleet, she reported quietly. I think they really mean it this time. Ryan Torres monitored all the communication channels from his console near the window. He had been listening to radio chatter from both fleets all morning. The ship crews are talking about going home, he said. Some Vorthak pilots are already planning shore leave. The Neltharian gas haulers are calculating fuel savings from not having to run combat patrols. The morning session ended with both leaders agreeing to meet again after lunch. They would sign the final treaty tomorrow if everything continued to go well. Jake felt relief wash over him like warm water. Maybe this mission would end with handshakes instead of body bags. During the lunch break, Jake walked to the station's observation deck with Lisa. They could see both alien fleets spread across the starfield like two armies of glowing dots. In a few days, those ships would go home instead of fighting each other. I keep thinking about all the families on those ships, Lisa said. Vorthak crystals grow new offspring every 50 years. Neltharion gas forms split to create children when they feel safe and happy. This peace will let them have families again. 30 years is a long time to be at war, Jake replied. Some of those ship crews have never known peace. Their children were born into fighting. Not anymore, Lisa said with a smile. After tomorrow, they can go home. The afternoon session started just as well as the morning. Both leaders reviewed the prisoner exchange lists and agreed on the timeline for returning captured soldiers. They discussed war reparations and medical aid for wounded veterans. Speaker Vithros even made a joke about Vorthak crystal beings being too heavy to float in gas clouds, which made Primarch Zektel's crystals ring with laughter. Then everything went wrong in a single moment. The trouble started when Primarch Zektel stood up to make the traditional Vorthak gesture of friendship. He extended one of his crystal arms toward Speaker Vithros, palm up with his fingers spread wide. In Vorthak culture, this meant, "I trust you with my life," because it exposed the most fragile crystals in his hand. But the universal translator had been running for 18 hours straight without maintenance. A tiny error in its processor core caused it to misread the gesture's meaning. Instead of translating the action as a peace offering, it identified the extended arm as an attack position. The translator's voice filled the room with words that made everyone freeze in horror. Primarch Zektel challenges Speaker Vithros to mortal combat and threatens to shatter her gas form. Speaker Vithros heard the translation and reacted instantly. Her gas form turned bright red with alarm, and she released a cloud of defensive chemicals from her pressure suit's emergency vents. In Neltharion culture, this was a warning display that meant, "Stay back or I will defend myself." But Primarch Zektel saw the chemical cloud and thought it was poison gas meant to kill him. His crystal body flashed white with anger and he swung, his arm toward the nearest Neltharion delegate. Crystal shards flew through the air like bullets. The peace conference became a battle in seconds. Neltharion guards filled the room with thick yellow gas that made everyone cough and gasp. Vorthak warriors fired crystal spears that shattered against the walls and floor. Alarms started screaming throughout the station. "Everyone down!" Amy Brooks shouted, pulling out her weapon. She fired stun blasts at both sides, trying to stop the fighting. But there were too many aliens and not enough humans. Lisa Carter saw a group of station workers trapped near the fighting. She ran toward them, trying to help them reach the emergency exits. "This way," she called, waving them toward safety. A Vorthak warrior, blinded by rage and chemical gas, fired a crystal spear at what he thought was a Neltharion attacker. The sharp crystal hit Lisa in the chest and went straight through her body. She fell to the floor, blood spreading around her like a red flower. Jake reached her in seconds, dropping to his knees beside her. The crystal had gone through her lung and out her back. He could see her ribs through the wound. "Lisa, stay with me." Lisa looked up at him with eyes that were already getting dim. Blood came from her mouth when she tried to speak. "Jake," she whispered, "do not let this end everything." "The peace, they really wanted peace." "You are going to be okay," Jake said. But he knew she was dying. He had seen enough wounds to know when someone could not be saved. Tell them it was not their fault," Lisa said. Her voice was getting weaker. The translator broke. "They did not mean to fight. Please, do not let this end everything we worked for." Then she closed her eyes and stopped breathing. Jake held her body while the fighting continued around them. Commander Grant was shouting orders to evacuate all humans from the station. Ryan Torres was trying to fix the universal translator, but it was too late. Amy Brooks was pulling Jake away from Lisa's body, telling him they had to leave now. Through The station windows, Jake could see the alien fleets powering up their weapons. The ships that had been talking about going home were now preparing to kill each other. 30 years of war would continue because of one broken machine and one misunderstood gesture. The translator is working again, Ryan said as they ran toward their ship. It was just a processing error. The whole thing was a mistake. Jake looked back at the station where Lisa's body lay in a pool of blood. The woman who wanted to save alien families had died trying to save alien workers. The peace, she believed, had lasted less than 2 days. A mistake, Jake repeated. She died for a mistake. The Phoenix Dawn undocked from Harmony Point just as the first energy beams lit up the darkness between the two fleets. The war that should have ended was starting, all over again, and this time it would be worse than before. 3 weeks after Dr. Lisa Carter died at Harmony Point, Captain Jake Morrison sat alone in his quarters writing letters he never wanted to write. The first letter was to Lisa's parents on Earth, telling them how their daughter had died trying to save people she had never met. The second letter was to her younger brother who worked as a teacher on Mars. Jake had written these kinds of letters before, but this one felt different. This one felt like the end of something important. Daktar. Phoenix Dawn was docked at Luna Base, the big military station that orbited Earth's moon. Outside Jake's window, he could see hundreds of human ships arriving every day. Not the usual exploration vessels or trade ships, but military cruisers with heavy weapons and battle armor. Something was happening, and Jake had a bad feeling about what it meant. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Ryan Torres entered, his usual smile nowhere to be found. His black hair was messy and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Captain, you need to see the news feeds from the border systems. It is bad." Jake followed Ryan to the bridge where Amy Brooks was already waiting. Her red hair was pulled back, tight, and she wore her full security gear instead of the casual clothes she preferred during dock time. The main screen showed a news reporter standing in front of burning buildings. The war between the Vorthak Empire and the Neltharion Collective has spread to 6 new systems, the reporter said. Both sides are now targeting civilian populations, claiming the other race cannot be trusted. The Galactic Federation has called for immediate ceasefire, but neither side is listening. The screen changed to show Admiral Paul Henderson speaking from his office on Luna Base. The old man looked tired and angry at the same time. "Humanity offered to mediate this conflict in good faith," Henderson said. "Our diplomats died trying to bring peace. Now both alien races are blaming us for the failure of the peace talks." "What do they mean, blaming us?" Amy asked. Ryan pulled up another newsfeed on his console. "This is from the Vorthak Imperial Network," he said. A crystal being appeared on screen, speaking in their musical language while subtitles appeared below. "The humans deliberately sabotaged the peace negotiations," the Vorthak spokesman said. "They wanted the war to continue, so they could profit from selling weapons and mercenary services to both sides. The translator malfunction was not an accident." "That is insane," Jake said. "We lost one of our own people trying to make peace work." "It gets worse," Ryan replied, switching to a Neltharion broadcast. A gas being swirled in angry red colors inside a pressure suit. "The human species has proven they cannot be trusted with galactic peace. They pretend to be mediators while secretly supporting conflicts for their own benefit. The Neltharion Collective demands justice." Amy checked her security reports on her tablet. "Captain, I am seeing military buildups in 12 systems. The Vorthak and Neltharions are not just fighting each other anymore, they are working together." Jake felt cold fear creep up his spine. "Working together? They have been enemies for 30 years. "Not anymore," Amy said. "Intelligence reports show they signed a military alliance yesterday. They are calling it the Justice Coalition. 4 other alien races have joined them." The door opened and Commander Felix Grant walked in. The old diplomat looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 weeks. His left arm was in a medical sleeve, still healing from crystal shrapnel he caught during the evacuation from Harmony Point. "Jake, we need to talk," Grant said. "The situation is worse than the news reports are saying." They moved to Jake's private office where Grant pulled out a classified data pad. The Justice Coalition delivered an ultimatum to the Federation Council this morning, he said. They want humanity expelled from the Federation and restricted to the Sol system. All human colonies outside our home system must surrender to alien administration. They want us to give up our colonies? Ryan asked. There are 40 billion humans living on other worlds. That is not the worst part, Grant continued. If the Federation refuses their demands, the Coalition will declare war on any species that supports humanity. They are forcing our allies to choose between us and them. Jake sat down hard in his chair. What did the Federation Council say? They refused, of course. Humanity has been part of the Federation for 200 years. We have helped end dozens of wars and saved millions of lives. But the Coalition does not care about that anymore. Amy was reading security alerts on her tablet. Captain, there are reports of Coalition ships moving toward the outer colonies. Long-range sensors show a major fleet heading for the agricultural worlds. Which colonies? Jake asked, though he already feared the answer. New Texas, New Iowa, and New Kansas, Amy replied. The farming worlds that supply food to half the human colonies. Ryan went pale. My sister Kate lives on New Texas. She moved there 6 months ago with her husband. They just had a baby. Grant looked at his datapad again. Jake, I am recommending you for transfer to a military vessel. The Federation is putting together a defense fleet, and they need experienced captains who understand alien psychology. What about diplomatic solutions? Jake asked. There has to be a way to make them understand the translator malfunction was real. I tried, Grant said sadly. I sent evidence of the technical failure to every Coalition world. They claim we faked the data. Some of their leaders might believe us privately, but they cannot back down now without losing face with their own people. The communication console started beeping with an emergency signal. Ryan rushed to answer it, his face getting more worried as he listened. Captain, that is a distress call from New Texas. Coalition ships just dropped out of hyperspace in their system. Jake jumped up. Put it on the main screen. The image showed a woman in farming clothes standing in what looked like a barn. Behind her, Jake could see families loading children into transport vehicles. This is New Texas Colony calling anyone who can hear us, the woman said. A Vorthak fleet just arrived. They are not responding to our communications. They are moving toward our planet. The signal cut to static, then came back showing a different person. The Vorthak ships are firing some kind of energy beam at our atmosphere, a man's voice said. The air is getting thick and hard to breathe. Our children are coughing. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. Ryan was frantically trying to reach his sister on a private channel. Kate, please respond, he kept saying into his microphone. Kate, are you there? The emergency broadcast continued. Jake could hear children crying in the background and adults trying to stay calm while organizing evacuations. The air is turning solid, someone reported. The Vorthak are crystallizing our atmosphere. We cannot breathe. Send help. Please, send help. Then the transmission went dead. Ryan kept trying to reach his sister, but there was only silence from New Texas. 40,000 people, including farmers who had never hurt anyone, were dying because aliens thought humans had sabotaged peace, talks on purpose. How long until our nearest fleet can reach them? Jake asked. Grant checked his military data. 18 hours at best speed, but intelligence suggests the Vorthak can crystallize a planet's atmosphere in 12 hours. Jake felt something break inside his chest. First Lisa, now 40,000 innocent colonists, including Ryan's family, all because of a translator error that lasted 30 seconds. Sir, Amy said quietly. Admiral Henderson is requesting to see you immediately. He said to tell you that Operation Righteous Fury has been approved. Jake had never heard of Operation Righteous Fury, but the name made him think of old Earth history books about human wars. The galaxy was about to learn something it had never seen before. What humans looked like when they stopped being peaceful. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the warship Retribution, watching Coalition ships burn in the darkness of space. 3 months ago, he had been a diplomat trying to make peace between aliens. Now he was a warrior helping to destroy them. The change felt strange, like putting on clothes that fit perfectly but belonged to someone else. Target destroyed, Captain, Amy Brooks reported from the weapons station. Her red hair was now cut military short, and she wore black combat armor instead of a security uniform. That was the last Coalition cruiser in this sector. The Battle of Kepler Station had lasted 6 hours. The Coalition sent 1,200 ships expecting to fight maybe 50 human vessels. Instead, they found Admiral Karen Swift's entire battle group waiting for them. 200 ships that looked small and peaceful until they started fighting. Jake watched the wreckage floating past his window. Pieces of crystal Vorthak ships mixed with the metal remains of Neltharion gas haulers. A few weeks ago, he would have felt sad seeing so much death. Now he felt nothing except satisfaction that the enemy was dead. Casualty report, Jake called, to Ryan Torres at the communication station. Ryan had changed too since his sister died on New Texas. His friendly smile was gone, replaced by cold eyes that never seemed to blink. 7 human ships lost, 43 crew members dead. Ryan reported. Coalition losses are total. No survivors detected. Good, Jake said. The word came out easier than it should have. 3 months ago, he would have ordered rescue operations for enemy survivors. Now the idea never crossed his mind. Admiral Swift's voice came over the ship's communication system. All vessels, this is Admiral Swift. Operation Broken Chain is now active. We have new targets and new orders. Jake had served under Admiral Swift for 2 months now, ever since Admiral Henderson transferred him from diplomatic service to the military. Swift was 50 years old with gray hair and scars on her hands from some old battle. She had been fighting alien pirates on the frontier for 20 years before the Coalition War started. Unlike Jake, she had never tried to make peace with aliens. She only knew how to kill them. Captain Morrison, report to my ready room. Swift's voice continued. Jake left the bridge and walked through the corridors of the Retribution. The ship was 3 times bigger than the Phoenix Dawn and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Every wall was covered with screens showing tactical data, enemy positions, and casualty reports from human colonies. He passed a group of Marine soldiers cleaning their rifles after the battle. They looked up as he walked by and nodded with respect. 3 months ago, Jake had been a captain that aliens trusted to solve their problems. Now he was a captain that human soldiers followed, into battle against those same aliens. Admiral Swift was waiting in her office with a star map displayed on the wall. Red dots showed Coalition positions while blue dots showed human forces. There were a lot more red dots than blue ones, but the blue dots kept winning battles anyway. Jake, sit down, Swift said. She poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed him one. We need to talk about the next phase of the war. What did you have in mind? Jake asked. Swift pointed to a cluster of red dots near the galaxy's center. Coalition High Command. Intelligence has located their main headquarters in the Centauri Nebula. Every leader who ordered the genocide of our colonies is hiding in a space station protected by their best ships. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Coalition base was surrounded by over 300 warships, including the newest Vorthak crystal destroyers and Neltharion gas bombers. That is a lot of firepower protecting them. It is, Swift agreed. But those leaders need to die. The aliens who ordered 40,000 farmers to suffocate in their own air deserve what is coming to them. Jake thought about Dr. Lisa Carter dying on Harmony Point and Ryan's sister choking to death on New Texas. What do you want me to do? You know alien psychology better than any captain in the fleet, Swift said. I want you to lead the assault on their command station. Your job is to get inside and capture the Coalition leaders alive. Capture them? Why not just blow up the station? Swift smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Because humanity needs to send a message to the galaxy. We tried being peaceful mediators for 200 years. When the aliens rejected our peace, they chose to see what we look like at war. She pulled up another display showing human military production. Jake was shocked by what he saw. In 3 months, humanity had built more warships than most alien races owned in total. Weapons factories that had been disguised as research stations were now working around the clock. Every human colony was contributing soldiers, ships, or supplies. The galaxy thought we were weak because we preferred talking to fighting, Swift continued. They forgot that humans conquered their own planet before they learned to fly between stars. We hid our military strength behind diplomatic missions and exploration fleets. Jake realized the truth. We were never as peaceful as we seemed. Peaceful by choice, not by nature, Swift confirmed. Every human colony has been quietly preparing for war since we joined the Federation. Every transport ship can be converted to carry troops. Every research station can manufacture weapons. Every civilian has basic military training. The door opened and Ryan Torres entered. He saluted Admiral Swift and handed her a datapad. Ma'am, we just received intelligence on Coalition leadership locations. Primarch Zektal is confirmed to be aboard the command station. Jake felt his heart beat faster. Zektal was the crystal being whose peace gesture had been mistranslated, starting the whole war. He is the one who reached out his hand at Harmony. Point. And he is the one who ordered the attack on New Texas after accusing us of sabotage, Ryan added. His voice was cold as winter. My sister Kate died because of his orders. Swift looked at both men. Zektal will face human justice for what he did. The same goes for Speaker Vithros and every other coalition leader who chose genocide over peace. Amy Brooks entered the office carrying a case of weapons. Captain, I have prepared special equipment for the boarding mission. Neural disruptors, gravity bombs, and harmonic crystal shatterers designed specifically for Vorthak anatomy. Jake took one of the weapons and felt its weight in his hands. 3 months ago, he would have been horrified by devices designed to torture alien beings. Now he was just thinking about the most efficient way to use them. When do we attack, he asked. Tomorrow, Swift replied. The galaxy will learn that humans keep their word. We promised peace if they wanted peace. They chose war instead. Now, they get to see what humans look like when we stop holding back. Jake stood up and finished his whiskey. Admiral, there is something you should know. When I capture those coalition leaders, I'm going to make sure they understand exactly what they did. What do you mean? I'm going to show them recordings of every human child who died in their attacks. I want them to see the faces of the people they murdered. I want them to hear the names. Then I want them to explain to the galaxy why they thought 40,000 farmers deserved to die for a translator error. Swift nodded approvingly. That sounds like justice to me. As Jake left the Admiral's office, he thought about how much he had changed since Dr. Carter's death. The diplomat who once believed in peaceful solutions was gone. In his place was someone who understood that sometimes peace could only be achieved through absolute victory. The coalition had made a terrible mistake when they chose to see human kindness as human weakness. Tomorrow they would learn the difference. The final battle for Coalition High Command lasted 3 days and changed the galaxy forever. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the wreckage of the Alien Command Center, looking down at Primarch Zektal's broken crystal body. The being who had once reached out his hand in peace now lay shattered on the metal floor, his rainbow light fading to darkness. Is he dead? Ryan Torres asked. His voice sounded tired after 3 days of fighting. His black hair was covered with crystal dust and alien blood. In his hands he held the device that had opened Speaker Vithros's pressure suit to the vacuum of space, killing the gas being who had ordered his sister's death. Yes, Jake replied. They are all dead. The Coalition command station was a tomb, now. Human soldiers walked through the corridors checking for survivors, but they would not find any. Admiral Karen Swift had given clear orders. No prisoners, no mercy, no coalition leaders left alive to start another war. Jake walked to the main window and looked out at the space battle that was ending. Human ships moved between the burning wreckage of the coalition fleet like sharks swimming through dead fish. 300 alien warships had protected the station yesterday. Now they were just floating metal and crystal debris. Captain, Amy Brooks called from across the command center. Her red hair was singed from an explosion and her armor was cracked. But she was alive. I found their communication system. Admiral Swift wants to make a broadcast to the galaxy. Jake nodded and activated his communicator. Admiral, the station is secure. All coalition leadership is dead. Admiral Swift's voice came through clearly. Well done, Captain. How many human casualties? 47 dead. 112 wounded, Jake reported. The numbers felt small compared to the 40,000 colonists who had died on New Texas, but each lost soldier still mattered. Acceptable losses, Swift replied. Jake, I want you to help me with something. The galaxy needs to understand what happened here and why it will never happen again. Admiral Swift arrived on the command station an hour later with a team of technicians and recording equipment. Her gray hair was pulled back and her uniform was clean, like she was preparing for an important meeting. In a way, she was. This broadcast would be seen by every intelligent species in the galaxy. Set up the cameras here, Swift told her technicians, pointing to the center of the command center, where the coalition leaders had made their war plans. The floor was still covered with crystal fragments from Primarch Zektal's body and scorch marks from the energy weapons that had killed the other alien commanders. Jake helped arrange the scene while Ryan and Amy stood guard. The message Admiral Swift wanted to send was simple. This is what happens to anyone who murders human civilians. Ready, Admiral, the chief technician announced. Swift stood in front of the camera and began speaking. Her voice was calm and clear, like a teacher explaining a simple lesson to children who had been misbehaving. My name is Admiral Karen Swift of the Human Federation Navy, she said. I'm speaking to you from the former Coalition High Command Station in the Centauri Nebula. This facility, along with every ship that defended it, has been destroyed, she gestured to the wreckage around her. For 200 years, humanity served the galaxy as peacekeepers and mediators. We helped end dozens of wars and saved millions of lives. We asked for nothing in return except friendship and cooperation. Swift picked up a piece of Primarch Zektal's crystal body and held it up to the camera. This belongs to Primarch Zektal, the Vorthak leader who ordered the genocide of New Texas colony. He and the other coalition leaders accused humanity of deliberately sabotaging peace negotiations. They chose to believe lies instead of evidence. They chose war instead of truth. Jake watched the Admiral's face as she spoke. There was no anger. There, no hatred. Just cold certainty, like someone explaining why 2 + 2 = 4. The coalition killed 40,000 human farmers because of a translator malfunction that lasted 30 seconds, Swift continued. They murdered families who had never held weapons, children who had never seen war, elderly people who grew food to feed the galaxy. They did this because they thought human kindness meant human weakness. She dropped the crystal fragment and it shattered against the floor. They were wrong. Swift walked closer to the camera. Let me be very clear about what you have witnessed. This was not revenge. This was education. The galaxy needed to learn that humanity's peaceful nature was a choice, not a limitation. When you forced us to choose between peace and survival, we chose to remain human. Ryan stepped forward and handed the Admiral a data pad showing casualty figures. In 6 months of war, the coalition lost over 2 million military personnel, 800 warships, and their entire command structure. Human losses were less than 50,000, mostly in the initial surprise attacks on our colonies. These numbers tell a story, Swift said, reading from the pad. They tell the story of what happens when a species that conquered its own world through 10,000 years of warfare decides to fight for its survival. Amy brought over a recording device and played audio from the New Texas attack. The sounds of children coughing and families saying goodbye filled the command center. This is why the coalition leaders had to die, Swift said simply. This is why we could not show mercy. The Admiral looked directly into the camera for her final words. Humanity offered you our best. We gave you our diplomats, our peacekeepers, our doctors and teachers. When you murdered them, you forced us to give you our worst. The choice was always yours. She gestured to Jake, Ryan, and Amy. These officers once served as diplomatic escorts, protecting peace negotiations and saving lives. The coalition war turned them into weapons of vengeance. Captain Morrison captured enemy leaders and made them watch recordings of their victims before executing them. Communications Officer Torres developed psychological warfare techniques that drove enemy crews insane. Security Chief Brooks led boarding, parties that left no survivors. Swift's voice never changed tone, never became emotional. She was simply stating facts. Remember this moment when you consider whether humanity has limits. Remember this station when you think about testing those limits. We tried to be better than our violent past, but when you forced us to choose between evolution and survival, we chose to remain human. The broadcast ended, and the galaxy would never be the same. Within hours, every remaining coalition world surrendered unconditionally. Within days, alien governments across the galaxy were sending peace offerings and apologies to Earth. Within weeks, new laws were written forbidding attacks on human civilians under any circumstances. Jake Morrison returned to Earth a month later. He visited Dr. Lisa Carter's grave in the military cemetery outside London. The woman who had died trying to save peace lay beneath a simple headstone surrounded by the graves of 40,000 new Texas colonists and the human soldiers who had died avenging them. Jake placed a fragment of Primarch Zektal's crystal body on Lisa's grave. "You were right about one thing," he said quietly. "They really did want peace at first, but they chose war instead, and now they know what human war looks like." Children across the galaxy would grow up learning a new lesson in their history classes. Never mistake human kindness for human weakness. Humanity had shown the galaxy their best, and when it was rejected, they had shown their worst. The mistake that triggered humanity's unstoppable wrath was not the translator error that started the war, but the coalition's belief that peaceful beings would stay peaceful when their children were murdered. The galaxy had learned the difference between human mercy and human justice. It was a lesson they would never forget.